Boot up Steam, go on the most popular, and what do you see? It's all corn. It's hard to believe that gamers are this high on the Gooning food chain. And if you asked me, I would have said they ranked on the lower end, but I couldn't be more wrong.
How much milk is generated per hour? I could set it so that my breast size kind of depends on how much milk is in them.
I blame you guys. This was all your fault. Is it even possible for a Gooner game to be higher than an actual game like Frostpunk 2? And the question is somehow yes. It's all about cum nowadays, not saving people from the cold. Hunipop, Stellar Blade, Overwatch, Dead or Alive Extreme 2.
I have this place all to myself.
What the fuck are you playing? These games have something in common. The power of sexual appeal and control over Gooners. Wow, Naya, you're starting to sound like a Tristan Tate or something like that. Like a nasty red pill Johnny Walker, if you will. No, Mr. Cigar. As you guys know, I have major beef with the red pill community. We've been tussling since the big 05. You guys have probably seen our battles in history books, History Channel, probably Bang Bros. A long history, I tell you, but the one thing that me and these red pilled men could agree on is the topic of gooning. Gooning is bad, and it seems like I'm gonna have to show Mr. Goon what I mean. Let's enter my expertise. Mr. Cigar, bring up the Scholar Vegeta, but my face cropped on it. That shit should be on the Jumbotron in 3, 2, 1, right there, baby. Now, this is me, and of course, my field of study is gaming. Now, combine gooning and gaming, a deadly recipe that could only lead to disaster. I mean, just look at Avatar: The Last Cockbender. This was not intended to enter the gaming industry. One source of dopamine clearly wasn't enough, so adding Rule 34 was the next best option. The rise of Rule 34 Steam games is a long journey, spanning all the way back from when Steam was first conceived from Gabe Newell, the most glazed man on the planet. His cock has been sucked more times than any porn star solely from the amount of clout he gets from Steam sales that everyone buys into yet never plays. Hence the 45 videos talking about how to tackle your gaming backlog. Please leave my fucking recommended page, I beg of you. Steam launched in 2003 by Valve, focused on mainstream gaming with strict content guidelines that prohibited explicit adult material. Steam, of course, tried to avoid hosting games with overtly adult themes. Developers often relied on off-platform patches or mods to add adult content, which was the first Gooner flag planted on the planet called Steam. Nekopara and Hunipop, two very popular games that were the pioneers of pushing Steam guidelines. Playing these games by itself when they first released never showed anything explicit. When you enter the evil, dark, gloomy cave that is the internet, things get scary. Both developers had nudity patches for their games. Off-platform games was the way to sell at the time, and it's honestly a genius way to sell your games to the most amount of people instead of keeping yourself on a website no one knows about. As time passed, developers and players alike recognized a gap in the market. The demand for adult content in gaming became more evident with the rise of crowdfunding platforms like Kickstarter, which funded adult projects like Subverse and Hunipop. Steam users frequently criticized Valve for inconsistent enforcement of its guidelines. Games with moderate sexual content were sometimes banned, while others with similar themes were allowed. And this is where the shift in guidelines began. When subjectivity's in the mix, clear judgment is often forgotten. You can't have a team going one by one deciding whether or not a game should be allowed on a platform that doesn't have the strongest guidelines on R34 games. This is simply a case of either none of them are okay or all of them are okay, and Valve finally realized that when June 2018 hit. Valve announced that Steam would allow anything on the platform except for illegal or trolling content. This is when the floodgates opened for all the cum-infested Gooner gamers. The flood of adult games following the policy change was more catastrophic than the Great Japanese Typhoon of 1812. Developers began releasing fully uncensored games on Steam, leading to a surge in adult visual novels, dating sims, and erotic puzzle games. You're probably thinking, wow, Gabe Newell is so nice for giving the people what they want. Wrong. Like any CEO, this man loves money, and he loves it more than anything. Corn in the real world is something that will never go out of business. It's something that men would fight wars for. Valve experienced the revenue firsthand and knew exactly what the play was. Adult games constitute approximately 10% of the best-selling titles on Steam, and even though they are difficult to find with a normal account, a Gooner will stop at nothing to find them. And with the sheer quantity of these games, they're bound to make a profit. This data indicates that over the past 3 years, more than 4,000 adult titles were released, with a median revenue ranging in between $1,000 and $2,000. Now let's assume an average of $1,500 per adult game with over 4,000 released in the past 3 years. Now crunch these numbers into the Jumbotron. 4,000 games times 1,500 equals $6 million. And don't forget Steam's cut they take from every game, which is a whopping 30%. So 30% of $6 million is $1,800,000. And all this information is from 2023. This number has only grown. If you look at this stupid fucking graph I took from their website, you'll start to realize that corn games come in quantity, not quality. And yes, they make a big chunk of Steam's income, but to compete with other genres, they have to pump out a ludicrous amount of games. Most of these games barely make 13 bucks, but like ants, power comes in numbers. Corn and corn games are giant money bags, and they're even bigger money bags if they're cheap and easy to make. But that's just Steam. Only a small hint of history. Let's go all the way back to the beginning real quick, to the first ever Rule 34 game, Soft Corn Adventure. We only have the most creative minds in this industry. 1981 was slated to be the greatest year of human history. I mean, just look at these graphics. You know, for being the first ever adult game, I really expected more. This game was just a seed planted, a seed that has grown and has never stopped growing. Softcore Adventure laid the groundwork for future adult games. Its significance lies not just in its content, but in its willingness to challenge societal norms and experiment with the narrative potential of games. This game is what paved the way to Hunipop and My Thai Boyfriend. The butterfly effect is beyond scary, and what's even scarier is this game sold 50,000 copies, roughly equivalent to 25% of the number of Apple II computers sold at the time. So if your parents have this device, there is a 1 in 4 chance they own this game. They were grinding Softcore Adventure while you were sucking on your thumb like a dumb baby. Go salute them, please. I implore you. There were several pornographic games in the early 1980s. Look at Custer's Revenge, which is considered to be one of the worst games ever made according to my scholarly source, Wikipedia. It's about a naked cowboy avoiding Native Americans. Why are people hating? Oh. That's why. Adult games didn't really know their place in the industry yet at this point, as visual novels weren't really discovered till later. And without being able to mass produce them and also distribute them digitally, it was extremely hard to make a solid profit. And the origins of Gooning gamers end here, I believe, with nothing else to cover. I think we should enter the next stage of the—
Oh! Newgrounds! I can't control them, Knight! You gotta help me, man! Just talk about the rise of Newgrounds! You gotta, man!
Anybody who's older than Fortnite knows what Newgrounds is. Before Steam and YouTube existed, it was all about Newgrounds, videos, animation, video games, and of course Gooner games, and there's a lot of them. Newgrounds was founded in 1995 by Tom Fulp, the first man on the moon, with the moon being the internet, paving the path of modern internet culture and breeding thousands of creative artists and of course Gooners. Early adult content on Newgrounds often took the form of comedic animations and interactive video games. Hence the 3-time Game Awards winner Avatar: The Last Cockbender. Newgrounds was the site to go to if you want to play a Goon game based off your favorite cartoon or video game. Were all of them well made, you ask? And my response is, I throw this question in the garbage because it's fucking stupid. For every semi-competent game you get, you acquire another 12 slop games about touching boobs. It was truly a dog-eat-dog world in the early days of Newgrounds, and I don't even know what that means. But as most people know, once YouTube and Steam were introduced, Newgrounds' indie streaming platform wasn't as popular as it once was. Adding with the fact that Steam got more and more lenient with its Goon constitution, it financially made more sense to put any Goon game on Steam. Does that mean Newgrounds is dead? Most definitely not. There's still plenty of uploads and game creations on the site every day, but even then, modern Newgrounds will never compare to its prime years. A golden age, if you will. A golden age, an era where art, skill, or activity is at its peak. For Newgrounds, it's often associated with creative freedom and Goon evolving content. While Newgrounds was primarily known for its humor, edgy animations, and innovative indie games, it was also a significant platform for NSFW creators during this time, like Zone Sama and Spaz Kid, and many, many, many more. Too many, if you ask me. This place was the Viltrum of the Gooning universe. Flying cars? Fuck that. Undertale? Yes, please! Newgrounds was destined to be a mainstay and a in-between for most Goon developers. And what I mean by a in-between is that not everyone wants to make a fully fledged, voice-acted, 4K, multiple-ending, cyberpunk-esque experience. If Steam was a garbage can full of slop, Newgrounds is an entire fucking landfill. But not in quantity, of course, but in quality. Remember, these are made by indie devs, so more often than not, you're gonna have a Goon game look like a 4th grade itch.io project. Hey guys, Future Knight here. I just came here to say what I just said was probably the stupidest thing I've said in years. As I traveled the desolate planet that is Newgrounds, I conducted research on some of these games, and my result came back as, why the fuck is there so much effort put in these games? They have more gameplay mechanics than Skull and Bones, and that game is the first quadruple-A game ever made. Anyways, back to my original script. Newgrounds is less strict on their game-making guidelines and don't need their game to pass a Steam Greenlight system, which is a system created to stop shovelware from infesting the site. Hey guys, another update. Steam Greenlight has actually been gone for the past 7 years now, and it's been replaced with a new system called Steam Direct, where you have to pay $100 every time you want to publish a game. Anyways, back to the original script, which makes Newgrounds perfect for indie creators to share all their creations with the world. A true double-edged sword system. Come Metropolis and their humble origins is aspiring for all Gooners in a place that manufactured them in the dozens. With Korn and Gooners being extremely fucking relevant in today's age, and I mean extremely relevant, there's going to be titans in the industry. With Newgrounds and Steam, the host, they are the platforms that home these Gooning beasts, with individual creators and Otaku pulling the strings. Let's separate these two groups and talk about the home of these Goon cities first. Steam, the gaming platform that everyone and their mother is on. The gaming platform that has every game you could want. Some compare it to the Library of Alexandria, which I can't even say is exaggerated. With the brief history I gave before, there is a lot, and I mean a lot of Gooner games. And even with this quantity, it still hasn't muddled out the real games. And I say that kind of loosely because some of the top sellers will always have at least one Goon game. Seriously, why the fuck are there so many Korn games on Steam? Every corner I turn, it's either a cat girl being touched or I'm somehow ending up on the front page of Sex with Hitler.
Now that game is truly a classic, Knight. Come on.
Yes, Mr. Cigar, I know. I have 4,000 hours clocked in and I'm still trying to get the secret ending. Who is buying all these? Is it you? I wish all these developers would just band together to make a giant studio to make the ultimate adult game. Imagine an open world game with state-of-the-art graphics and game mechanics that would put Breath of the Wild to shame, and a plot rivaling Evil Bong 666. See, this would never happen because it is all slop, and I'm not saying this with facts or evidence or even experience. I'm saying this off a gut feeling. I know, guys, I didn't make a cross-reference board full of evidence and stretch the video out to a whole fucking hour. I'm so sorry. But just take 2 or 3 minutes of your time and just scroll. Scroll through all the slop on Steam, and there's a lot of it. But most of this slop is just adult games, and even with this amount, it's still somehow less than the Nintendo eShop slop with over 9 billion hentai games, and in reality, only having 3 real games. Now, let's take a second to look at some of these Game of the Year contenders. Lust Goddess, a card game for champions, and then you got Karen's Prison with the highly acclaimed Karen's Prison P-Cup DLC, or better yet, Amarillo's Butt Slapper. Where were you for the 2024 Game Awards? I like to peddle the theory that Markiplier was the catalyst for this Come Kingdom, with his Let's Play of Hunipop, a game that even non-Gooners have heard of, with 3 games in the series, which is somehow the same amount of games that Pikmin has. And we're gonna ignore this one because I don't really like it. Remember, fellows, capitalism rewards the wealthy. The wealthy in this situation being the creators of Kaiju Princess 2. These examples are some of the top Gooning games from Steam, and if we take a look at the Steam Grid DB, you can find that the amount of games released each year steadily grows, with 1,400 games being released in 2024, and in 2025 there's been 68 released. It's been a month, guys. I already know every Gooner's dick is coughing up nothing but condensated semen, but the amount of adult games that are platformed on Steam is insane to me. Well, how does Come Central stack up against the original OG Come Kingdom Newgrounds nowadays? Newgrounds and Steam are direct opposites. Steam's adult game library spans in the thousands, all made up by these pump and dump companies, as Newgrounds is more centered around curated, smaller indie game creations, with no rules and the freedom to let their Gooner fantasies be fully realized in any game they want to make. Less on trying to make money and more on creativity and sharing degeneracy. And even though modern age Newgrounds' cultural impact has slowly diminished into a tiny little bitch baby flame, can't even light my fucking birthday cake, it still stands to this day as an adult game platform that harbors all the indie devs not looking to make a profit. In a poetic way, these platforms are 2 sides of the same coin, a cum coin, if you will. It's up by 54%, by the way, just letting you guys know. The platform that hosts the Goon games aren't the ones that should have the blame pinned on them, of course. We need to look at the creators, the puppet masters controlling all these Gooners behind the scene, the love liquid infused titans that publish, create, and distribute. Nutaku seems like to be the biggest publishing company when it comes to this genre, with over 30 games published. And with a name like this, I was expecting these Gooners to be located in the Big J, just to find out these guys are based in fucking Montreal, Quebec, Canada. Canada is now officially declared Goon Central. I didn't decide this, it was the council, and it was unanimous. Nutaku is like the trenchcoat man trying to sell you drugs, but in gamer terms, they're like the merchant from Resident Evil 4, but instead of selling you weapons, he sells you Pokemon Fuda hentai. Their whole goal is being a distributor. Take all the Goon games from Japan and market them to Western audiences. Nutaku is an adult gaming platform with a bulk of their video games being on their own website. Located in Canada, which is still fucking crazy to me, Nutaku offers games with mature content, and as of early 2020, Nutaku had 50 million registered users. 50 million! Mr. Sagar, how many alt accounts do you have?
Listen, man, I just gotta get my goon on, man.
And there's just so many fucking games. They have their own Steam catalog of Gooner games, and a lot of them aren't even listed on Steam. I was thinking, guys, that maybe I could scrounge up some developers and quite possibly make my own Night from Hammerfell adult game, with over 3 playable characters with some in-game collectible cosmetics thrown in, like the limited edition Night from Hammerfell butt plug. But these are just fantasies. Or are they? I think the creepiest version of these games are the 3D ones. These uncanny 3D models genuinely scare me. How can you like this? This is more of a horror game than anything. I'm saying all this shit when the game somehow has more players and reviews than the Ubisoft Avatar game. If that doesn't show the power of Gooning, I don't know what will. Outdated joke. I would like to apologize for making a severe and continuous lapse in my judgment. Avatar has now surpassed House Party in player count. I seriously don't expect to be forgiven. When I initially started researching this game, the first video I found was a 34-second speedrun of the game, which made me grin from ear to ear. Speedrunners are truly just the roaches of gaming, but in a good way, of course. Any game made could somehow have a speedrunning community, and House Party having one where your whole goal is to get drunk and get truly in a whole realm of its own. This game does look kind of fun to play, and I'm saying that because of the shitty voice acting and interactions that I've seen from gameplay, not because of the gooning. This is still scary to me. Unlike Nutaku and their 2D adult visual novel Monopoly, these 3D adult games are owned by more indie studios. They all have this plasticky look to them, and you can tell all these games are just really cheap Unity asset flips trying to make a quick buck off middle-aged men that haven't gotten action in years. Even if these adult visual novels are pumped onto Steam like most slop, at least they have some form of effort put into them. And yes, I know 3D games are harder to create, but this is one of these situations where you have to bite the bullet as an indie developer and just stop trying to make realism your priority. It's uncanny, it's ugly, and worst of all, no one is going to be gooning to this.
I will.
Mr. Cigar, just take him outside.
Outside?
Well, there's one company I found which is based in Japan with animation that surpasses a freshman college class, a company called Illusion. They make 3D adult games, and it low-key looks like Final Fantasy, and it's kinda scaring me. Who would have thought a game called Honey Select 2 Libido DX would have graphics look this good? Illusion is known for making high-quality 3D adult games with history spanning all the way back to 1993 with their debut game, Angel Army, which is now easily destroyed by their powerful, awe-inspiring, boundary-pushing game, VR Kanojo. Jesus Christ. If this doesn't look like real life, then I don't know what to tell you. Illusion is basically what would happen if you gave some of these indie slot makers a team and some money. Only Japanese people, man. Their goon addictions is just stronger than the West, I guess. Billions must goon, as they say. And it's not just adult games that benefit off gooning. All games do, and some make it a gimmick. Stellar Blade is one of those controversial games that I believe no one would have actually played if the character didn't have jiggle physics and boobs the size of King Kong's nutsack. And even if the game had these things, I still don't understand where all the talk came from, as if 2B didn't do this shit 5 fucking years ago. This game was like master-crafted Japanese rage bait that these online YouTube slop-creating grifters use to claim bread troopers or whatever the fuck are pissed about. I don't think anyone actually cared besides Twitter, and you can barely count them as human. The thing these grifters gotta realize is not the body that these Twitter queens are pissed about, it's the over-sexualization of the character, and also the body as well, I guess. I don't know. Man, anyone be pissed about everything nowadays. Now, personally, I do not give a fuck about either because I'm a spineless, grassless, green cock-eater like my main man, Moist Critical. My actual problem with this is the exploitation of young men with addictions and the fact that this game uses a busty woman as a crutch for an average game. The same people who complain about women living on easy mode because of OnlyFans are the same people who buy this and think they aren't supporting the same fucking idea. Guys, we are seriously better than this.
Booty round, big booty round, booty round, big booty round.
You're pushing 40, man. This game got popular for being a partial Gooner game. Its true purpose for existing isn't to make you dump gallons and gallons of load, but to capitalize off that system. It is by all regards a suggestive or lewd game. Stellar Blade makes sexual appeal a core mechanic with its outfits, animations, and physics that spawn thousands of YouTubers just to talk about it. It's beyond bait when the game showcases it every chance it gets. And again, all power to the player. If you want this Gooner game and want to call it art, go right ahead. Just don't call it Game of the Year winner just because your micro dick chode gets semi-chubbed mid-cutscene. But what about those live service games that stay alive with continuously adding Gooner bait for corn addicts to consume and keep playing? The two main culprits that I feel on my chinny chin chin is Overwatch and Marvel Rivals. And Marvel Rivals, especially with the recent skins, holy fucking fuck. Marvel Rivals is one of those games that remind you of the constant failure that Concord and Overwatch are. Especially Concord, because at least Overwatch was fun at one point. It's honestly really hard to talk about Marvel Rivals without mentioning Overwatch. Its whole personality and what it stands for is directly intertwined with Overwatch. What Overwatch is to TF2 is what Marvel Rivals is to Overwatch. This game will outlive any competitor if they play their cards right. Like I said about Concord, it's a hero shooter that also failed, but the thing that people have to realize on one of the main reasons that it did fail, besides the map design, game design, and basically everything, was the fact that it's missing the holy grail of Gooner bait. More people know about Overwatch corn than actual Overwatch, and if Marvel Rivals makes this kind of play, there's no doubt the Gooners will keep this game alive, hell or high water. As long as you can control your touch-starved audience with half-naked women and sexually appealing characters, you already have a cash cow in your hands. And you can go one step further and turn that bait into money. Attract someone in with a character, boom, skins that make her more revealing. Ka-ching! It's fucking mind-blowingly genius. Sleep. That's me swiping my credit card, by the way. Like, look at this shit. Are the developers coding or are they gooning? I'm aware this is a comic book variation of her, but adding this as her first skin is definitely trying to send a message to the enemy Gooner game, Overwatch. This game deadass revolutionized corn. Once they released those 3D models, it was like opening up Pandora's box. Unlimited power to all amateur 3D artists. Blizzard, this is the company that spends more time sexually assaulting employees instead of working, by the way. Blizzard knew that they had a game that was truly special when initially released, but they knew where the money was. When Overwatch first released, it felt like the second coming of Christ. If I had to pick Prime Overwatch over Salvation, it would be Overwatch. If I had to pick Prime Overwatch over the cure for cancer, it would be Prime Overwatch. If I had to pick Prime Overwatch over the world fucking exploding, nothing would change. You stupid, dumb idiot. I would be picking Prime Overwatch. Nothing, and I do mean nothing, could stack up to Overwatch in its early years, besides maybe Minecraft story mode. It combines fast-paced first-person shooting mechanics with team-based objectives, creating a game that felt both accessible to newcomers and deeply strategic for veterans. And even though this game wasn't made to be an adult game, you could still consider it the most successful Gooner game to date. For half the community, when they hear Overwatch, they think of intense battles, amazing character design, shitty, toxic, dumb fuck Genjis, and the other half is just a jar of cum. Overwatch was a Gooner game. No, the Gooner game. This game alone caused over 1 million people to have a porn addiction. Is this good? No. This is genuinely terrible, but even then, you have to recognize the impact when the impact has been made. When the crater has been made. That sounds a little bit better than what I just said. The chokehold this game had on the youth and middle-aged divorced men is unparalleled, and I have no doubt that Marvel Rivals is following right behind its footsteps. I'm telling you, once those 3D models are released, it's donezo, and they're gonna say that they released them for fan-made content or some shit like that. Alright, Marvel Rivals. I like to call these genre of games Gooner bait games. Like a horse and a carrot, the main gameplay is on a stick, but wrapped in a very large malicious bundle of ass and titties. Without this bundle, the popularity of the game would have not have lasted as long as it did, and that's just being honest. Same with Marvel Rivals. Everyone in this game has a massive ass, especially the men. God damn. Perpetuating the popularity of your game with Gooner shit is probably the best design decision you can make with any type of media. Men with money have no limits when it comes to the power of their degeneracy. They will buy the skins, they will buy the games. I never thought that people with jobs would actually dedicate a portion of their income to vices like these, and yet here we are. I'm convinced the reason most people that live in my country, the big US of A, have most of their debt come from being a Gooner. Now, I'm not saying Gooner bait makes these games inherently bad. I love Marvel Rivals as much as the next guy, and Overwatch is Overwatch, but I'm trying to display how much of an effect this has on video games. Look at Concord. I personally did not play the game, so my opinion has as much weight as a fucking feather, but from what I've gathered, the gameplay was actually not that bad, but the huge problem was that Overwatch existed, and the character design is holy fuck. If they added Gooner bait, I guarantee this game would have made at least $17 more from its initial 10. Concord would have maybe seen the light of day if they capitalized off touch-starved men. It's very simple, really. The Gooner bait formula is a formula that is easy to pick up but hard to master. You don't want to be trying too hard with titties bouncing everywhere, but you also don't want your characters to look straight out of 600-pound life. You need a perfect blend of sexual appeal and subtlety to get Gooners to throw mountains and mountains of cash at you. As a D1 gamer who's constantly surrounded by Gooners and was a ex-veteran myself, I do get it. I really do. But there comes a point where you really gotta reflect on yourself and look through a third-person lens. Like, bro, are you seriously slapping your meat to a squidling from Splatoon? Rule 34 hijacks your brain and affects it in ways you wouldn't really expect. You start to see people differently. Everything and everyone you think about are always thrown into a sexual light. It makes you struggle on forming bonds with people, and especially with women. And being a human being who plays video games is already a crutch in itself. If you thought it was hard before, imagine doing it with a crippling addiction that makes you socially anxious. I can hear you chattering your teeth through the screen. All these gurus that say if you do NoFap for a couple months, then you'll feel more confident, more alive, develop superpowers, become the second coming of Christ. But the reality of this is a lot of men don't feel that way. It's a self-image issue, not a celibate one. Most people in their subconscious know that it isn't good. Deep down, they feel gross, and it affects their self-image, their self-esteem, and in proxy, affects their life too. This can differ from person to person, but even if it doesn't affect your self-image, it will inevitably make a chemical dependency or imbalance in your brain. Dopamine intolerance will develop, and most things you used to find joy in slowly become boring to you. Why play video games to have fun when I could just stroke it to Goku for 2 minutes and get the same fill? It's just a slippery slope that a lot of teens fall into. I've never played corn games, but if I did, I would play one that at least has sexy Goombas or something, like, you know, something with some taste.
Dude, I was fucking joking. Why is this a thing?
I wanted this piece to be a wake-up call to some people, especially the ones that are desensitized to even the most hardcore of these game companies know what they're doing, and they're not stupid. They're most possibly Gooners themselves, and this is not me making a demand out of you to go celibate, because I honestly do not care what the fuck you do to your cock. But man, don't let these video game companies use you of your precious yum-yum sauce as some fucking pixels on a screen. Like, come on, man, really? Jeff? That's the 3rd time this week. Basically, if you want your game to be successful, just add attractive looking characters. It's not that hard. But listen, my young, impressionable wiener wielders, use your head, not your dick when it comes to your money is the message of the day. And don't let these companies capitalize off of you just because you need to let out a splooge every 2 minutes.